Caitlin Clark was scoring 32. Jason Whitlock texted the chat. Oh man, all of these free throws. It's just too many free throws.
She's best off not engaging at all.
Before I even knew Charles, he and Wally Hall were great friends. And Charles can tell
is going to beat the snot out of 97% of the team.
Caitlin Clark is playing at her ultimate best. This season, I really do. I think Caitlin Clark.
I don't know if they're blitzing. They don't, the big can't contain. I mean, Olivia Miles turned the corner, and I want to give.
Everything we've been saying, Maurice, whether you realize it or not, you're getting around this. Let me say this. You have.
Right out of the gate, Maurice pushes back hard on the idea that Iowa didn't prepare Clark for the 1BA, pointing out she carried real, nightly pressure to deliver for her team in a way some of her peers, like Paige Buchers at UConn, simply didn't have to. That's a fair, substantive basketball argument about roster construction and pressure, not just a hot take.
I don't know if they're blitzing. They don't, the big can't contain. I mean, Olivia Miles turned the corner, and I want to give Kelsey Mitchell credit, not just for the 37 points. I thought she did. She worked really hard defending the ball in that game and trying to get through ball screens. And they had her icing ball screens to the sideline, and the big would lose containment and let Olivia Miles turn the corner and get layup after layup. The Minnesota Lynx are the better coach.
This is a preview. And here's the actual media criticism angle driving this whole segment. The claim that Fearless went an entire 10-show stretch, from mid-July into early August, without playing a single Caitlin Clark highlight while she was averaging 29 points and 9 assists a game. That's a specific, checkable claim about editorial choices, not just vibes.
32.7 assist game. You know what we talked about, Virgil? We talked about 12 people putting up signs for Sophie Cunningham. We talked about signs in the stands. We talked about an old overweight lady sitting in the front row as a plant. We never talk about the 32 points. Ironically, the one time in over 3 weeks where she has 19 points and 10 assists, and I agree, she was the 4th best guard on the court in that game. I'm not refuting that. But the one time you feel
the 45-point, 10-assist double-double reference here is completely real. Clark set that mark on July 17th against Seattle, the first 40-10 game in 1BA history, and it's confirmed by ESPN, Yahoo, and the league's own site. If a real historic performance like that doesn't get discussed on a major sports debate show, that's a legitimate editorial choice worth questioning.
46 from 3, 90% from the free throw line. They refuse to talk about it. All of a sudden, she's homeschooled because she had 19 and
now it's homeschool, Maurice. Now it's homeschool.
It's insanity. Jason Whitlock. I knew Whitlock was up to something. I called him yesterday. He refused to answer my call. I knew he was up to no good. I knew it.
That is gaslighting in the highest form, what you just did right there. That is mind-boggling how you just did that. I knew it some.
The frustration about fan-signed discourse getting more airtime than a 32-point, 11-assist game is a real, specific media priorities complaint, and it's the kind of thing that's genuinely worth holding a national sports show accountable for, regardless of how you feel about Clark personally.
Does have an impact, and if Michael Jordan were playing now, and some of these other athletes you read, Kobe was playing now in his peak right now, I think it would have some influence, maybe not ultimate influence, but some influence.
Caitlin Clark has 3.9 million followers on Instagram, according to what I see. There's a cult of people against her. There's a cult of people for her. Everybody has something to say. All of you are noise, as opposed to
the stat cited here, a stretch shooting 55% from the floor, 46% from 3, 90% from the line, is the kind of efficiency number that would dominate coverage for almost any other player in any other sport, and the pushback about it getting ignored until one below average game happens is a fair, pattern-based critique of selective coverage.
If she recognizes it the same the same way that you are pointing it out. She may not even see it this way. She may be completely oblivious to all of this. Maybe she doesn't feel like she needs to adjust her game, and she feels the team needs to adjust, or the teammates need to adjust, or the coach needs to adjust, or she needs a better situation. Maybe she's fine completely with exactly where she's at. So it really depends on how the person responds to the situation. How we respond just adds to the noise and the entertainment aspect of it, but it doesn't.
The free throw double standard call-out is worth sitting with, pointing out that Aja Wilson scored 36 points on 14 free throws with zero criticism about the volume, while Clark drawing contact gets framed as somehow suspicious, is exactly the kind of inconsistency that's fair to call out in real time.
Something to say. All of you are noise as opposed to the signal. The signal is what happens on the court and who she chooses to listen to and engage with. The noise is what everybody else has to say. Because if she engages in the noise of the people who like her, then she's probably going to hear some noise from people who don't like her. That's when things get confused. That's when the signal starts to get mixed up. The signal has to be shutting all that out. Like that. Remember that Dre Beats commercial where the player's sitting on the bus and it's all that noise, they put the headphones on, it just goes quiet. That's how an athlete has to be if they're going to go out there and perform, especially when you have as much attention as she has on her. She starts engaging like we talked about last week. Once you're in it, you're in it. And she's best off not engaging at all.
Dre's homeschooled analogy is actually a thoughtful basketball point once you get past the loaded label. The idea that some players who never face real adversity in college can get exposed once real competition arrives in the pros. It's a real basketball development theory, not an insult, even if the framing got heated in the moment.
I'm going to agree, particularly on the defensive end, in terms of there are moments out there where you can legitimately question Caitlin's effort on the defensive end, where she is standing flat-footed, has no interest in boxing anyone out. She's just a spectator. And it's you can see it. It's like it's an effort thing. Hey,
the signal versus noise breakdown here is genuinely one of the smarter points in this whole segment. 3.9 million Instagram followers, a cult of supporters, and a cult of critics, and the argument that none of that actually matters compared to what happens on the court. That's solid, level-headed media advice for any athlete under this kind of scrutiny.
I guarantee you that BR would be talking about today. I guarantee you that we'll be talking about that. But let me say something, because I don't want this to slip by, because I know Maurice realizes this, and it's to Jason's point here. When he said something about the free throws Friday night, when he texted about that, you mentioned that. And you know where I'm going to. Here's my point. You saw something yesterday that you'll probably never, ever see as long as Caitlin Clark play again. You realize she didn't go to the free throw line one time from a foul. The one free throw she shot yesterday was from a technical foul.
Yeah, it's the same thing that happened after.
The Game of Thrones hate watch analogy is a fair defense of tough love criticism. The idea that pointing out flaws in something you genuinely care about isn't the same as hating it. Whether or not you buy that as a full defense of the specific commentary being discussed, it's a reasonable framework for how sports criticism is supposed to work.
As a 6'5" center off the bench, they have 3 to 4 starters off the bench. The Indiana Fever don't have the depth. Now, if you just say, hey, we're going to roll out and play y'all starting 5 versus our starting 5, between Kelsey Mitchell, Caitlin Clark, and Aaliyah Boston, I think you got enough firepower to compete with anybody. But when you got to go to Maisha Hines-Allen or a Ty Harris, they got so desperate, they threw in Raven Johnson. Lexi Hall is buried on the bench. I don't understand what the Indiana Fever, outside of that big three, they don't have enough to compete with this team at all.
Charles, I think you make a fair point, Maurice. Charles?
The basketball analysis here is legitimate and stat-supported. Indiana can run up the score against bottom feeder and middle-of-the-pack teams while getting away with real defensive lapses, like the 16 offensive rebounds they gave up to Seattle, but they genuinely haven't beaten the league's upper echelon teams consistently this season. That's a real, fair critique independent of any media coverage debate.
Caitlin Clark on the basketball court is never a story unless she doesn't play up to what you believe the standard is. 45-point double-doubles don't matter. Nothing matters until it's only a story when she does not play up to your standard. It's been proven.
If she had a 45-point double-double yesterday against Minnesota, I guarantee you that BR would be talking about today.
The free throw pattern argument gets sharper here, pointing out Clark didn't shoot a single non-technical free throw in a specific recent game, then connecting it to a broader claim that officiating tightens up specifically against elite defensive teams like Minnesota. Calling specific officiating fraudulent is a strong opinionated word choice worth flagging as opinion rather than a proven fact, but the underlying pattern of inconsistent whistle rates by opponent is a real, trackable stat worth investigating further.
When that team you saw is going to beat the snot out of 97% of the teams in this league. I just think everybody has to pump the brakes and calm down. Everybody just
here's what I'm gonna say.
That's not true. What you just said, they beat the snot out of 50% of the league, and then the other 50% they struggle with.
And here's what I'm gonna say.
I'm talking about the Lynx.
I think the Fever can beat the Minnesota Lynx if Caitlin Clark is playing at her ultimate best. This season, I really do.
And the closing basketball breakdown is genuinely solid analysis, crediting Minnesota's ball screen defense, Cheryl Reeves' coaching, and real roster depth advantages, while still making the case that Indiana's top 3 talent can compete with anybody if everything clicks. That's a nuanced, credible take, not just a hot take for the sake of engagement.
As a 6'5" center off the bench, they have 3 to 4 starters off the bench. The Indiana Fever don't have the depth. Now, if you just say, hey, we're going to roll out and play y'all starting 5 versus our starting 5, between Kelsey Mitchell, Caitlin Clark, and Aaliyah Boston, I think you got enough firepower to compete with anybody. But when you got to go to Maisha Hines-Allen or a Ty Harris, they got so desperate, they threw in Raven Johnson. Lexi Hall is buried on the bench. I don't understand what the Indiana Fever, outside of the big 3, they don't have enough to compete with this team at all.
Charles, I think you make a fair point, Maurice. Charles?